What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, boy. You feel me? And I'm back from the basement. We live. You know what I'm saying? We just doing our thing. I just came here to hang out with y'all one more time, invite y'all in. You know, it's like that '70s show today. You know what I'm saying? You probably wondering why we got Disco Dan on the camera with us today. Well, this is Wendigoon. I believe is how you pronounce it. And Wendigoon just might be the coolest white person on YouTube. No offense by defining him as white, but I mean, look at him. He looks like he was in an ABBA music video back in the day. But what he does is I guess breaks down like some conspiracy theories or like horror stories. Really, truthfully, he does a bunch of different icebergs and then a few other type of videos too. I kind of been down just watching a bunch of his videos this week. I just came across it randomly and I became a subscriber myself. Like I said, this is a community. We watch things together, so we're gonna watch this together. And pretty much he's gonna tell us who killed JFK, and I believe him because he seems to do a pretty good amount of research. And you know, Wendigoon, you know, check him out, watch some of his stuff. You know, now let's get into it.
Hey everybody, so I was doing research for the iceberg and kept coming across like weird shady government stuff, and a lot of it made me think about JFK, and then I was like, I haven't given my crazy conspiracy rant on him yet, so this is that. I say that mostly as a joke.
See what I'm saying?
To me, JFK
might be the coolest person on
most
YouTube.
Obvious cover-ups that have ever happened in history ever, to the point that there is government records and committees made who say, without a shadow of a doubt,
Wait, before we really get into this, I do not need the government at my door. I do not need any of you other weirdo YT people at my door. I do not need any shoot, I'm low key. I ain't gonna say I'm a Trump supporter, but this guy that we got right now, I probably would have liked him over him. I don't need any of you people at my door. Any of that stuff. I am independent. I like the truth. You feel me?
That it was a conspiracy. So I thought, what better way to illustrate that than with a whiteboard? So bear with me, and I am going to show you exactly how JFK was killed and who killed him. What I'm going to do is start with the official telling of events so we can establish how the official report of everything that happened went, and then from there I can pick it apart and we can see what more than likely happened, or at least what probably happened that certain government groups don't want us to know about. I'm trying to get past the minute.
I gotta see ID. You know what I'm saying?
Before I say the specific word, but yeah, we'll get there. I hope that you all can.
But if you're old enough to grill, you're old enough to chill. You know what I'm saying?
The official retelling of
Don't
events.
take that the wrong way.
On November 22nd, 1963, John F.
Sorry, let me get this out real quick. What I meant by that, you're old enough to grill, you're old enough to chill. You know what I'm saying? Only a real grown man know how to grill that meat right. You know what I'm saying? Pause. Feel me? But no, real deal. You gotta know when to flip it. You gotta know when's the right time to dip. You know the texture, the right color, the you know the right amount of seasoning to put on it. That comes with time and practice. Ain't no 18-year-old just getting up and doing. Ain't no 15-year-old just getting up. Excuse me. Ain't no 15-year-old just getting up and, you know. Come on, man. Now let's get back to the professor and let's see what he got for us.
F. Kennedy. Has it been past a minute?
Yeah, it's been past a minute, sir.
It's probably been past a minute. The CIA killed John F. Kennedy. Like, hilariously so, but we'll get to that. 1963, November 22nd, John F. Kennedy and his wife Jackie are going through Dallas on a motorcade in the middle of a big Dallas parade. It was part of his whole re-election campaign. Right in front of them was the governor of Texas and his wife, basically Mr. and Mrs. Connolly. In the front row was CIA agents O'Connolly and Greer. Greer was driving. The official telling of events goes something like this. Lee Harvey Oswald fired 3 shots. The first one was use the Patreon money to get better markers. The first shot was a miss, supposedly bouncing off the pavement and hitting a bystander who we'll talk about in a minute. The second shot supposedly hit John F. Kennedy in the back of the neck. The bullet then went through his neck, hit John Connolly, the governor, who was sitting in front of him, in the back, right below the scapula. It then shot through, so let me draw this out, bounced through him into his chest, shot out the front of his chest, hit his arm, and then shot down into his knee and came out as a perfectly intact bullet. This is so absurd that the official name given to it during the court trials that would follow is the magic bullet theory. This is why in the famous Zapruder film, in which you can see the assassination of John F. Kennedy, he's leaned over like this, holding his neck because he had just been shot in the neck. Finally, the third shot came, hitting JFK in the back of the head and killing him. While making his escape out of the bookstore.
You know, in all the videos I've seen, honestly, I thought it was just the CIA or the Secret Service driver and JFK and his wife in the back seat. So this is news.
John F. Kennedy ran into a police officer. He then pulled a revolver and shot the police officer twice, killing him. Which, I mean, after you shot the president, you might as well add the cherry to it, I guess. It was later found out that Lee Harvey Oswald had communist sympathy ties. As a matter of fact, he tried to renounce his U.S. citizenship some years back, and everyone was happy initially, like, yep, that's the guy that did it. Don't have to worry about anything else. The Warren Commission, which was the board that was put together
but we don't believe
make
that.
sure everything that I just described actually happened, came back after short deliberation and said, yep, Lee Harvey Oswald was the only shooter, and it was not some grander conspiracy, and we can all close the books on this one. So let me tell you why that's wrong. I'll go ahead and say this to be generous.
I mean, we all know that they do tell you what they want you to know, not what you want to know, not what you feel like you want to know. Like, look at me. I'm a African American, so they say, right? If you do some research, you might come to think, well, I am mixed with other things, but you might come to find out I could possibly be a Native American who is just mixed with African American through Africans coming to America. When originally all the slaves could be Native American. Not all of them, but it could be a 50-50 type deal, 80-20, 70-30, 60-40. But they only tell you what you want to know. Think about it. Once again, I do not need you people at my door. I'm just watching Professor Wendigoon. I'm just watching it with my people. We all here together.
I do believe Lee Harvey Oswald was one of the shooters. However, there is not a doubt in my mind that he was not the only shooter. So let me explain. Remember that first shot that I mentioned that was supposedly a miss? Well, what happened is that bullet skipped off the ground, shot to the other side of the street, and hit a man who was standing about 100 yards out
to go to that store where they have it.
I'm going to be drawing more people so we can
it.
keep track. It's our man JT. James Teague stopped, was watching the motorcade go by, which then a bullet skipped off the concrete and hit him in the cheek. You can even see pictures of that skid mark on the ground from the bullet that came up and hit him, the supposed first shot. However, the big problem to this is James Teague's personal testimony. See, he was walking by the street as the parade was going by and he didn't take much care for it. The reason he stopped and turned to face the motorcade was because he heard a gunshot. Now, if he heard a gunshot, took time to stop and turn, there is no way the first shot was the same one that hit him. But it would make sense if it was the second or the third or more after that. The reason everyone
break it down
in the
for
official
us,
report
Professor.
sticks with 3 shots is because there were
Let me
3
fix this
shell
for us real
casings
quick. My bad,
from
y'all.
Lee
My
Harvey
bad,
Oswald's window, as well as 3 at least.
Man, I'm just getting started with this thing, man. You know, we don't get better with time. You know what I'm saying? Don't judge me. You feel me? I don't judge y'all, you know? We in this together. We growing together. We friends, right?
Confirmed bullets on the ground. However, JT's testimony here messes all that up, and his isn't the only one. The governor who got shot along with Kennedy, John Connolly, says the exact same thing. He says that there is not a doubt in his mind, nor his wife's, that the bullet that hit Kennedy and him was 2 separate shots. Keep in mind, it's called the magic bullet theory for a reason. There's no way the bullet followed that whole trajectory and just stayed together perfectly fine. What makes more sense is that it was 2 separate shots. However, Lee Harvey Oswald was using a 6.5mm bolt-action Carcano rifle. Not to get into all the details of it, but it is literally impossible to fire a bolt-action rifle in the amount of time between what would be Kennedy getting hit and the governor getting hit. The space between the two shots was long enough that they could tell a difference in when each of them was hit, but not fast enough for someone to rechamber around and get a second shot off. Unless there was a second shooter somewhere off to the other side. And stick with me here for a second. I was trying to draw him on a hill, but it looks like he's got really big legs. We're gonna keep it. Anyway, if Texas Red here was off on the other side of the road firing shots toward the motorcade too, then one of his shots could have crossed through, striking the president in the neck and continuing, which would make more sense why Kennedy was hit in the neck, bent forward, and then one of Lee Harvey Oswald's shots hit the governor in the back. This is a direct quote from former Governor John Connally. "There is my absolute knowledge, and Nellie's too, that one bullet caused the president's first wound and that an entirely separate shot struck me." So where would our man Texas Red be standing? Most of you are probably familiar with the
Texas
famous
Red's
film,
the real
which is a
killer,
film
huh?
that is famous for being the one in which JFK gets killed. However, there was another view. There was another camera on the other side of the street that was recording that day that was filming the motorcade from the other direction.
Shit.
In it, everyone who has watched that film has said they can see with absolute certainty puff
Hey, I
of
dropped
gun
my
smokes
lighter, like,
appearing
twice
from
a
the
video,
opposite
I
side of
swear.
the street on what appears to be a grassy knoll. Not only that, but these puffs of smoke are in time with the times that bullets struck the motorcade. So now you may be asking yourself, what do you mean people who have seen this other film? And that's the fun part. In 1976, a group was formed called the House Select Committee on Assassinations. Now you may be asking, why in 1976, 13 years after the president's death, did they form a committee just to talk about this event? And it's because it came out that the CIA was purposefully hiding information regarding the assassination. Not only that, but they planned after this trial was over to have a trial for the CIA directors that allowed the information to go missing. The original reason that this House Select Committee came together is because new technology was found in '76 that analyzed this data more closely. Using audiograph equipment, and this is my interpretation of that, they managed to pull the audio from the original Zapruder film and picked out that there were 6 shots fired in this amount of time of the film, not the original thought out 3. They were so reliant on this that, as I mentioned before, they made a whole committee just to relook at all this information.
So now my question is for y'all. Remember, I said they only tell you what they want you to know. Well, what do you want to know? I mean, I want to fact check them, but if these turn out to be facts, leave me a comment. What you guys think? What do you think about all this?
You may be asking yourself, well, what happened to the other film and all the information? And that's the best part. The day after they used that other film footage to determine that there was a second shooter, it all disappeared overnight from a CIA lockup, to which they said that someone probably stole it along with all.
Does that not prove exactly what I just said? I repeat one more time. I do not need any of you at my door. This is Wendigoon, and we don't need you at his door. He's a great person.
All the other evidence that proved that something was wrong with this picture. Despite that, once the committee had finished their whole proceedings, this is the official statement they gave in the end. The committee believes, on the basis of the evidence available to it, that President John F. Kennedy was probably assassinated as the result of a conspiracy. The committee is unable to identify the other gunmen or the extent of the conspiracy. That is a government organization coming together and saying, yeah, something definitely weird happened. So we know that something was up, but what makes me think it's a CIA? Well, this is a whole other rabbit hole to go down, but John F. Kennedy was in big support of the CIA until a little thing called the Bay of Pigs happened. He was very upset with them after the fact and supposedly said to the White House Staff Committee, if it was up to me, I would take the CIA, break them into 1,000 pieces, and throw them into the wind. The CIA obviously didn't like that, and for those who know anything about them, they have a tendency to start to follow their own directive.
You know, this whole time, I thought the mafia really killed JFK. excuse the smoke, but y'all know what's going on. I ain't gotta say, and I'm not gonna say because I think I'll get in trouble for that. But yeah, the whole time I thought the mafia did it, because Granddaddy Kennedy was who he was. If you have a computer, you can find out the ties and all that. But yeah.
When president or states heads don't agree with it. I mean, for evidence, just look at like the 60s drug crisis or sending guns to South America, but we won't talk about that. Anyway, so going with this idea that John F. Kennedy was going to do something about the CIA, if not expose them for what they have already done, it stands to reason they want to do something about it. Also, keep in mind an interview that JFK did a couple months before the shooting. He said that there were scary things happening in U.S. politics and that there were secret societies planning to take over democracy and government systems, and yeah. So we have the motive.
So JFK went out on a limb.
As I've already mentioned, the CIA lost all the data the day after it was used in court to prove that this guy was actually there. Aside from that, at the least, their handling of John F. Kennedy's motorcade was hilariously bad. For example, they plotted out the map that John F. Kennedy would follow, and they determined that there were 20,000 open windows that the car drove by, and that there were so many windows.
I just want to say, protect
Wendigoon.
Wendigoon.
Cover any of them, which has got to be the worst compromise I've ever heard. It's like, man, there's a lot of windows. We're gonna have to do a lot of work, or we could not. Also, keep in mind what I mentioned earlier, Greer and O'Connery, the two CIA agents who were in the front of the car. As soon as the first shot rang out, Greer did not try to run away or drive away or anything else that's standard of CIA training. He brought the car down to a 7-mile-an-hour speed, and him and O'Connery hunched forward and put their shoulders up. It's so weird that Jackie Kennedy even came out afterwards and said he was behaving extremely oddly during the whole thing. To adequately explain the rest of this, I need to
Who's gonna risk their life getting shot at? That's the one thing that doesn't add up to me.
The Umbrella Man has become a famous figure in all the theories surrounding JFK, and there's good reason for it. In the middle of a sunny day in Dallas, right as the president's murdered, you can see a man in the Zapruder film who is holding up an umbrella in front of the motorcade. Not only that, but he is standing directly in front of the position Lee Harvey Oswald was in front of, and as he's standing there, JFK passes by, to which he lifts his umbrella, and immediately the first shots ring out. If that is not a man on the ground either signaling that it's the motorcade or giving the all clear to fire, I don't know what is. To top it off, immediately after JFK died, there are pictures of this guy simply shutting his umbrella and setting down.
Leave some comments about the Umbrella Man. What do you think about this?
Out, running around screaming, and this guy just was like, well, yep. During the House Select Committee on Assassinations, they were trying to figure out about this guy because obviously that's very weird and someone should probably figure out what happened here. To which the CIA brought in a man wearing a suit, holding an umbrella. The man walks into the court and goes, I am the Umbrella Man, and this is that umbrella. And the judge went, seems all right to me. There was no double check. There was no follow-up. They're like, that man has an umbrella. He's got my vote. There's also rumors and speculation
what do you
that
think?
That man was a former CIA agent. However, I couldn't find anything concrete on that, so I'm going to let that part slide. But it's weird either way. Also, in 1966, they tried to reevaluate JFK's autopsy, and his brain was missing. Like, after the initial autopsy, they took the brain out and preserved it, and no one's been able to find it since. So, I make it that what you will. I have no idea why they would do that. Also, the initial Warren Commission, which was the first one that happened immediately after this, that determined that Lee Harvey Oswald was the only shooter.
I wonder how he found all of this stuff out, because I never knew JFK's brain was missing. I mean, I heard of the Umbrella Man before. Never really knew about the man on the hill. Like I said, I thought it was the mob, so this is new. I know this video is kind of different from what I do before, but we just vibing, man. It's Halloween.
And he acted alone, was made almost entirely up of CIA members who, as it was proved later, suppressed information. There's a few things I want to disprove really quick to kind of emphasize this point. For one of the main theories that is prevailing through all this is that the mob did it, and while I'm sure the mob hated JFK, I don't see why a mob murder would be covered up to the degree that this was obviously and proven to be covered up by the CIA. Like, if the mob killed JFK, and assuming the CIA wants him dead, that's the perfect write-off. They could just say, yep, mob did it. That's cool, rather than having to do all this shady tactics around it. A lot of people also point to Jack Ruby, the man who ran up and shot Lee Harvey Oswald, as being for the mob because his family debts were paid off. But you know who else would probably pay off family debts? I'll give you a hint, it starts with CIA. The other popular idea is that the KGB did it. Obviously, that is the initial idea because, again, Lee Harvey Oswald was proven to have Russian ties. But one, if Russia did do it, they wouldn't get someone who had ties to Russia to do it, duh. And two, the CIA wouldn't cover it up if Russia did it. I also want to say the whole thing about the babushka lady, which was a lady who was wearing a babushka, who, kind of similar to the Umbrella Man, just walked around and didn't really do anything after JFK was murdered. I don't really see how that could be related to anything. She wasn't brought up later. I think she was just an old woman who was there and saw all of this play out. I also want to go another level deeper with this. There was a guy working at the CIA whose name rhymes with Gorge, H-double-oo, Mush. Gorge Mush, that's what we'll call him. Gorge Mush was one of the people put over this whole motorcade route and one of the people elected to keep the president safe. Whoa. So much so that he was in Dallas on the day that this all happened. So keep in mind, he failed his job harder than anyone can possibly fail. His job was to make sure nothing happens to this guy, and he got shot at least twice. Not long after this happened, that man was promoted to director of the CIA, and then another position. Not only that, but when Gorge Mush was asked years.
So, yeah. Whoa. Basically, another person who ran the country was in charge of protecting the person who ran the country.
Later, about where he was on the day of Kennedy's death, he said, I don't remember. You were in Dallas. All of it from head to toe reeks. There's absolutely no way that you could convince me or anyone else who thinks about it sensibly that Lee Harvey Oswald was just a crazy dude who acted alone. It is in my firm and honest opinion, as the opinion of many others, that the agencies and powers that be wanted this man dead. And while I do believe they used Lee Harvey Oswald as part of it, he in no way acted alone and he in no way acted on his own agency. But we'll never know, because the only guy publicly who would know, this one, got shot by a random man whose family debts were paid off before he died 4 months later. So we have the motive, we have the method, and we have the evidence. In my opinion, they're absolutely guilty. And even not of this, some other stuff. Also, just as a side note, a bunch of people are worked up over Texas Red's identity, who that could be. There's a lot of theories about it. Obviously, we'll probably never know for sure. But from everything that I've read, there was several CIA works with Cuban guerrilla fighters who were being trained by the CIA for whatever after the Bay of Pigs. And most of the evidence points to certain Cuban marksmen in Dallas that day. So probably. Either way, it doesn't matter, because just like Lee Harvey Oswald, they were a gun, one way about it. If Lee Harvey Oswald got caught, which he did, oh look, Russia did it. And if a Cuban guerrilla fighter got caught, oh look, Cuba did it. Either way, the people who really did it wash their hands of the situation and get a walk away. I should also mention, before anyone decides that I am a threat for this, this is a joke. It's all a joke. This is post-irony humor. This is entirely educational. I believe none of it, and you should believe none of it.
Educational.
And everything is a joke. So, tomato, potato. Anyway, now that we're done with all the jokes, thank you all for watching. This is something, again, that I just decided to do spur of the moment. So I hope you enjoyed. If you want me to do more like this, I certainly can. Make more funny jokes. Either way, if this demonetizes me, I'm absolutely thankful for all of my patrons, and a very special thanks to my top tier patrons. Thank you, Kayla. Thank you, Pep.
Hey, actually, I hope that this doesn't prevent me from ever getting monetized in the future, because I'm just a fan of his. Um, Shout out Wendigoon for this video. I know this was kind of different from what we've watched and the few I've put out, but we vibing. We just learning some stuff. We just kicking it. Not every day is the same. Some days you wake up and think about aliens. Other days you wake up and want to watch Kobe Bryant highlights. You know what I'm saying? Hey, um, yeah, man. Let me get a like, a comment, subscribe to the channel. Watch another video or something, man. Come on, man. Help me grow. You know what I'm saying? The more y'all help me, the more I can do for y'all, the more we could create some memories. Um, I know in my first video I said I'm gonna do some gaming and some other stuff. I'll start working on that pretty soon here. I just want to put this stuff out just to have some stuff, maybe get some traction. But yeah, it's your boy, we live from the basement. We out.